Ever since there was a second version of Minecraft, there have always been differences that you can note between the two different versions. From the Java edition to the Xbox 360 edition to the Nintendo Switch and so many more, the differences have always been pretty clear. Since Minecraft has gotten bigger and bigger and more time has passed, two versions of the game that have reigned supreme have been the Java edition and the overarching Bedrock edition. Both games, in their own right, are wonderful representations of the Minecraft formula and are undoubtedly the ones that a majority of the community points to as the definitive versions of the game, arguably alongside even Mojang themselves. However, just because they're the definitive versions doesn't mean that they're completely the same either. Differences have been seen far and wide over the years, and some have wondered if the gap will ever be truly bridged between all of these different various versions of Minecraft and how they feel as a game. Some of these differences are extremely small, and some are rather large, and some are a direct reaction to the game's different engines. As most Minecraft players want to be playing the correct version of the game, some differences have made the community wonder and second guess their decisions, and I made a couple videos recently about some of these problems. In this video, however, we're going to talk about the differences between Bedrock Edition and Java Edition, and see what needs to be fixed between the two, and overall, just compare them. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, let's start off with something that definitely needs to be addressed. In the Java edition of the game, Cauldrons are kind of useless outside of very specific Redstone devices. They hold water and that's it. They have other alternative uses, but it's not really their intended functions, especially for what the block looks like. The Bedrock edition of the game though, man, they've got that figured out. In the Bedrock edition of the game, Cauldrons have all sorts of crazy different uses. They can hold potions that you can later fill glass bottles with, and on top of that, they're also used to dye water. From there, instead of using your inventory as a means of dyeing armor, like in the Java edition of the game, you can just straight up right-click leather armor and things of that nature directly on the cauldron. Heck, all of the colors could just straight up be for decoration within the cauldron itself within your build. And when you're decorating your house with those cauldrons, consider putting down an armor stand with your dyed armor. Make your armor stand hold a sword and pose to show off your armor like a mannequin, whereas you can't display the sword on your armor stand in the Java edition of the game on survival mode. But speaking of armor, leather horse armor also exists, which you can in fact dye. However, in the current Bedrock edition of the game, as of the release of this video, there is a glitch to where the armor only shows up as white. I really wish all of this could come over to the Java edition of the game. It'd be extremely nice to horse around with it. Another interesting tidbit that the Java edition of the game would greatly appreciate would be how snow biomes treat leaves. In the Java edition of the game, leaves are the stereotypical green, but with snow on top of them. However, in this Bedrock edition snow biome, the leaves themselves turn white. It's an extremely nice feature that ties the world together really nicely and gives the biomes an immersive feeling. Another interesting thing involving snow in Minecraft is how the Bedrock edition treats layers of snow in general. In the Java edition, if you break a block underneath a layer of snow, the snow on top will simply disappear. In the Bedrock edition of the game, however, when you break the block underneath a snow layer, the snow itself drops to the ground down below, much like gravel or sand. The opportunities that this offers players for map making and more really changes a lot. I'd love to see a map where snow layers just fall from the ceiling and change the entire look of the area, making an interesting puzzle or something like that. That'd be pretty neat, especially for some winter-themed map. An extremely controversial difference between the two versions is the fact that the Minecraft Bedrock edition of the game currently lacks, and has lacked for a long time, the modern day 1.9 release combat mechanics. The mechanics have been a touchy subject in the Minecraft community ever since their inclusion almost 3 years ago. Some have made the argument that the Java edition is the definitive version of the game because it was the original version of the game and because of its support, and others have made the counter argument for the Bedrock edition's lack thereof. An often spoken theory is that Mojang is too afraid to jeopardize the Bedrock Edition community with the update and create a second 1.9 fiasco, while Mojang will probably tell you that it's because they can't figure out a way to implement the shield mechanic into touch mode interfaces. The inclusion of the update nearly tore the Java community in two, and seeing as Bedrock Edition is on many different devices, forcing millions of players with varying control schemes could be extremely risky. Bedrock users might want shields, but Java Edition users definitely want answers. Which combat system is the right one? Another extremely important difference is Redstone. To put it simply, there's almost no connection between the two varying versions of Minecraft when it comes to the advanced uses of Redstone. If you look up a tutorial for something Redstone related and you're watching a video for the Java edition of the game, odds are that tutorial will not apply for the Bedrock edition of the game, and that usually occurs the other way around as well. Once again, Redstone has become a super touchy subject. Things like AND gates, OR gates, along with NOT gates will usually work, but when you get into the crazy things like T flip-flops, you really have to find varying solutions. I'd argue that this is due to the engine differences and not so much the coding differences. Java Edition is spaghetti code, where Bedrock Edition is definitely more refined. One thing that's really cool about the Bedrock Edition, however, is that pistons can actually push items like chests and things of that nature, whereas the Java edition of the game cannot. That's something that we desperately need in the Java edition of the game. Something else that a lot of players on Java Edition may like is the experimental versions of the game. Bedrock Edition hosts a unique ability to utilize elements from the Education Edition of Minecraft, and shockingly, these abilities can do a ton, from having a detonatable TNT that works underwater to having various things like balloons and certain elemental things. The opportunities for what that version of the game offers is insane. Linked above is a video all about the Education Edition of Minecraft, where we would have to download mods for anything even remotely similar in Java Edition. The unmodified Bedrock Edition of the game is the host for this super interesting concept. It shouldn't go unnoticed. Are you sick of flying thousands of blocks in Minecraft looking for a specific biome? What about going to those pesky websites and looking up your seed there? Well, apparently the Bedrock edition of the game has a seed picker. This seed picker shows you varying options that you can choose from for extremely beautiful biomes. From the Mesa Plateau to Ice Spikes villages, you'll certainly be on your way to finding all of the resources that you need in the places that you want to live. In the words of Mojang, do you ever wish Minecraft had turn-based combat, or that you could play chess in Minecraft? Well, with the Bedrock Edition's scripting API, you can do exactly that, but in Java, you need mods that are not made with a scripting API, because after nearly 10 years, we still apparently don't have that. While it's extremely nice that Bedrock Edition is gaining the functionality of the scripting API, there are plenty who still feel sore that the Java Edition community may or may not ever be seeing this implementation pretty much ever, and thus we feel kinda neglected. But if you feel neglected about mods, well, just wait. Mojang's biggest blunder is clearly the fact that when we shear sheeps in Java Edition, all we see is white specks where the wool originally was, regardless of the sheep's color. I mean, I know it's a major problem, but whenever you shear them in the Bedrock Edition, they somehow keep their color. I mean, look at this sheared Jev sheep. Why don't we have that? Mojang, Michaelmcchill feels neglected. Help him out. But what do you think? Do you think that the gap between Minecraft Java Edition and Minecraft Bedrock Edition needs to be bridged? Should each version have some exclusive features? Which would you like to see brought over or removed from any of the individual games? Let me know in the comment section down below. But other than that, that just about does it for me for now. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like on it, because it would really help out myself and Michaelmcchill, who wrote and edited this video, the channel, and the video quite a lot. But anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed. My name is AntVenom, and I bid you all farewell. Thanks so much for watching.